Hello, I am Anthony. This is Matt. Welcome back. We are the Amoongus Burnouts, and we are here for our Week 4 wrap up and Week 5 pick'ems. First things first, we have a Week 3 makeup match that we probably want to talk about real quick. We have the Amoongus Burnouts, making up a match against the Lava Ridge Raiders. We actually ended up winning that one 4-0. Not a lot to say about it. We basically had safety goggles on a fire type, something that's been proven to work against them these last couple of weeks. Worked pretty well for us in this week. We think we got 3 KOs with the Volcarona and then 3 KOs with the Slowbro. We actually had nasty plot Slow King, not Slowbro. And we're actually able to clean up the Amoongus and all the other water weak things that they have, like Torkoal, like the Mudsdale. So we ended up taking the 4-0 win on them, and that was able to make up our Week 3 match against them, and we advanced to 3-0.
Next up in the Shield division for Week 4, we had the Matt Alcinas versus the Lava Ridge Raiders. This match was surprisingly similar to our match against the Raiders. Ben Vichy took out the Venusaur and the Slowbro very quickly, and from that point on, the Sun mode and the Trick Room mode were both totally crippled, and it was very difficult for the Raiders to really make anything happen from that point on. So, kind of the same story we've been seeing against the Raiders this whole time. Next up, we have a more interesting match with the Patrats and Potatoes. This one was I was very interested to see how this one went. It ended up being a surprisingly defensive game, even for the Caparaja with the sweeping with the weakness policy. It started off with the Patrats, signature combination there with the Runerigus and the Caparaja. They were able to bulldoze, get the weakness policy boost, and they had a lot of damage output from the Caparaja. Got some KOs, and then after the Dynamax was over, and once they brought in the Beware, the game took a very defensive turn. The Caparaja wasn't putting out as much offense later on in the game after the Exeggutor got a max Wormwind off, so it was only +1. And then the Beware, they had a pretty bulky Grassy Seed Bulk Up set. I don't think they ever actually clicked Bulk Up, but they had that on their set. And once it came down to just a few Pokemon left on the Potatoes side, they had Type Null, very very bulky Pokemon. It was a Swords Dance Rest Talk set. Wasn't really doing much except sitting there and sponging a bunch of hits, but because of the defensive nature of the game, at least in the mid to late game, it ended up with the Patrats winning 4-2, I believe. Really just took an early lead with that Caparaja sweep, and then moved into more of a defensive mode to maintain their lead. And then last we have us, the Amoongus Burnouts, versus the SoCal Skarmories. This game also had a more of an offensive beginning. Overall, the game was more offensive, but we both teams here had an early Dynamax, and we both just obliterated one side of the other team, and it basically came down to the second half of the game was kind of like it was just a single battle, really.
Yeah.
But the Crocodile Dynamaxed on the Skarmory side, the Gmax Grimmsnarl Dynamax for our side, and both these Pokemon were able to get some serious KOs, just burning down one side on the opponent's team, and then came down to basically a single battle between Grimmsnarl and the Comfey. We got a few bulk ups off and took it out with a play rough. the Crocodile came in, finished off the Grimmsnarl with an Iron Tail, and then the weirdest Blastoise set in the world came in and shell smashed its way to victory. Took out the Lapras with a couple of brick breaks and finished off the Crocodile in the back there. So we took the win there 2-0.
In the Sword Division, we have Team Pussy versus the Toronto Talonflames. Team Pussy started off 0-2. They went into a bye week. Coming into this week, the Toronto Talonflames been one of those teams that has proven that they can be pretty consistent. They're sitting at 3-1 right now. But after this game, I should say, they were sitting at 2-1 coming into this game, and it was going to be a real interesting game because Team Pussy came in and we, obviously the defending champs. We wanted to see what they had to prepare against this team, but the Talonflames had a lot in favor of their matchup. Obviously, they've showed that they can pull these games out. They are understanding of the format. They know what they need to do to set up and to win. And they had really good Pokemon just to compete with what Team Pussy had. The Escavalier is something that's really nice against the Hatterene. Something that they really rely on a lot to put out offense is going into Trick Room, laying down the G-Max Hatterene stuff, and just, really putting down a lot of pressure on teams we've seen, even though they've lost these last couple times, that they can really, really put down damage, could really put teams on the back foot. And the Escavalier is a nice check for that. But what we saw this week was that they led Tangela and Dragapult, the Talonflames, and Team Pussy actually ended up leading Purloin and Diggersby. The Diggersby, came out right away. They faked out the Tangela, stopped the redirection. They were able to blow up the Dragapult with the max darkness. Really, really came out. They took 2 quick KOs, Team Pussy, and it seemed like they were really going to take charge of the game. And this one of the more interesting Pokemon and combos that we've seen out of the Talonflames that's really proven that they can really put in a lot of work is this Toxtricity and this Sylveon and this Musharna. I mean, they've shown that they can put down so much pressure on some of these teams that just aren't ready for them. You prep for some of this Dragapult stuff, obviously, because it's some of the one of the bigger threats. But this Sylveon, the Toxtricity, putting down the Boom Burst, they were able to pick up 2 KOs, not hitting the Gengar, but having the telepathy with the Musharna really helped him just kind of like put down consistent pressure. Then the Sylveon came in, was able to yawn the Gengar, kind of put pressure down on that slot. Didn't really do a lot of offensive stuff this time because it got poisoned, which was unfortunate. But it still was a good Pokemon that they had. And then in the back, they just had the Escavalier waiting, and after all the pressure that they had already put down, and Team Pussy really didn't have anything for it after that. So we did see a disconnect later on, but they were able to work out that pretty much even after the Toxtricity was going to go down, the Escavalier was going to come in, be able to knock out the Hatterene and then clean up from in the back. So it wouldn't have mattered. So the Escavalier really showing that the threat level that it can put down, something that me and Matt are pretty familiar with. We used the Escavalier a lot last year. We went 8-1. And it was definitely one of the Pokemon that we relied on a lot to put down pressure on teams. The Talonflames are doing a fantastic job with it. So kind of surprising. Not so much that the Talonflames won, just more so on the fact that Team Pussy is starting off 0-3. It's defending champs. It's just more based off of that. They're 2 fantastic players. They have a team that while we have obviously criticized before, they still have been able to pull out wins with some of these mons in the in the earlier year, and it's just interesting that they're starting 0-3. We definitely thought that the team wasn't as good as it was last year, but we definitely didn't expect them to take a stumble like this in the first start. So really going to depend on how Team Pussy decides to take the rest of the season, but really good win by the Talonflames. It puts them at 3-1 this year, or this season. So they're looking to take command in the Sword Division, which is looking to get closer and closer every time we look at it. You have really good teams in that division, so getting that win against a good team like Team Pussy, is really important. After that, the Mimikyus and the Russian assets, they actually had a scheduling issue. The Mimikyus ended up having to forfeit to the Russian assets. Uh, not a lot to say there. The Russians were pretty highly favored anyway. A 3-0 win. That's more or less, what the odds would have been. Obviously the Mimikyus have a lot for them, but Cinderace versus two primary steel types that get, beat hard by or get outsped too. In the Durant, in the Cobalion, it wasn't going to be. It was going to be pretty tough for them to get that victory. So either way, the Russians won on a forfeit. So congrats to them. They're also moving up to 3-1, proving that the Sword Division is going to be a tough division to make playoffs in. So much needed win there, much needed differential there. After that, we have the Sadistic Seniors and Doesn't Click, two very good teams in our opinion. Doesn't Click, has been our top pick in the power rankings for the first couple of weeks, and they've proven that they're going to stick in the top five. You know, uh, considering what happened in this last one where they took a 3-2 victory, I believe, on the Sadistic Seniors. They ended up going to time. This one was a really interesting game. Um, I wonder if these games going to time are really hurting the seniors in their hyper offensive mode, that they like to go in. Doesn't Click, they have a super balanced team. They can work in any mode. It really doesn't matter. So one of the things we saw right away was the seniors, they led this NDD Porygon Z mode, that you immediately think they're gonna Dynamax, they're gonna start, laying down hard hits. And what do they end up doing? They go for a Follow Me Trick Room. Go into the Kanto Marowak. Everything was looking great, but after the 5 turns ended, you look back and you go, well, you were only able to pick up 1 KO on the Silvally after all of that. So it really showed that Doesn't Click is able to work in and out of Trick Room. You want to try and put down pressure in Trick Room? We can work in that. We can really put the brakes on what you're trying to do. Then they came out of Trick Room. They were able to try to put down pressure again. But the fantastic positioning by the seniors, which is something that we also saw, they were able to get a Trick Room up a second time. With the exact same lead, actually, the NDD Porygon Z, they had the exact same pressure down too, and they were able to set the Trick Room up again and again. The Doesn't Click just came out and they said we can work in this. We're able to do what we need to do. It was close. They both kind of realized that their win condition was timer, and Doesn't Click did do the right thing in going for the guarantee KO on the Corviknight. The Marowak ended up killing the Dynamax Cinderace. We saw late game Dynamaxes. The Marowak literally got 1 turn of Dynamax before the game ran out on time. The Cinderace, I believe, was on its 2nd turn of Dynamax, or its third, but either way, like, we saw very late game Dynamaxes come out from both teams. So it was really a defensive battle. Really good positioning by both teams. But I think when you're in a battle like that, it only benefits Doesn't Click, because with them you have to kind of hit them fast, hit them hard, put them on their back foot, make them. It's something that we saw with the Russians. They were able to go in Trick Room and right away just start putting down damage. And then when it didn't look like they were going to be able to put down damage, when they had that, the Cursula sitting out there, they got the fissure and were able to knock that out and knock them on their back foot even more. And it's one of those things where even then the Doesn't Click played incredible, but you have to have like some of these things just go well for you, because otherwise if you're not consistently putting pressure down on them, they're going to adjust, they're going to reposition their way to where they're going to be beating you in a couple of turns. So I think when you have these long drawn out games like the seniors have, it only benefits Doesn't Click. They're comfortable with this. They can reposition. They can make sure that everything's going to go their way, and they're going to start. When they decide to Dynamax, they're going to start taking KOs, which is what they prove. So uh, after that, we had the Sky Pillars had a bye, and I think you mentioned the New Wave have a bye this week. So after that, we are going to get into We Are Geniuses or We're Idiots. Also, no interview this week. Weren't able to get one up. Probably not going to do them every week. Probably only going to do them when we see a game that we really liked and enjoyed. Um, so, and then obviously with scheduling too, like even if we do like a game a lot, sometimes we're not able to get teams. So, just depends on how we feel and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think we just want to save those for some special occasions. I guess. Yeah.
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 So, with that being said, we're going to move on to We're Geniuses and We're Idiots.
Starting off this segment this week, we've been harping on it a bunch. Whether we've talked about the Lava Ridge Raiders in this segment before or not, we kind of touch on it every week. We haven't actually put them in this segment since week 1, but we figured that because we finally got to see a couple of their games this week, their replay with Ben and Vichy is not up yet. It should be in the next couple of days, so watch for that. But since they've gotten a chance to play more games, gotten a chance to gotten opportunities to prove us wrong, and since we've gotten to see some of their games now and see exactly what they're doing and how they're playing, we feel that it's more than fitting to put them back in here. So if you don't remember or didn't see it in any of the past videos, we've been kind of harping on them for having a pretty predictable team, and having both of their S tiers having the same typing and sort of both relying on powder moves. With this team, you know exactly when you look at the draft you're up against, you know exactly what they're trying to do. They have the Torkoal Venusaur. You know that they're definitely going for a Sun mode, and with all these other slow Pokemon, Torkoal included, stuff like Dragalge and Mudsdale and Slowbro, that's clearly a Trick Room mode. You know exactly what you're going to get with this team. We were hoping that maybe the Raiders were going to pull out something a little bit more creative, but that has not been the case so far. They've kind of just been going for the predictable Sun mode and the Trick Room mode, and they've been getting beat more or less the same way every week now. Especially they've been really getting beaten down by these fire types, especially when they're carrying safety goggles. Week 1, I don't know what the item on Chandelure was, but it was an imprisoned Trick Room set. It was just able to blow up everything after shutting down that Trick Room. Week 2, against the Patrats, the safety goggles Arcanine was next to the Rillaboom was really able to do a lot of work. Just ignored the Amoonguss immediately. They blew up the Slowbro, denied the Trick Room right off the bat. Week 3 against us, safety goggles Volcarona just blew up that Venusaur turn 1. It blew up the Slowbro later on, and then even after Dynamax was over, it blew up the Orbeetle. With a helping hand Bug Buzz. We just took out that Sun mode, took out that Trick Room mode, and then of course week 4, the same kind of thing happened. Incineroar from Ben and Vichy, also carrying safety goggles, it just blew up the Venusaur turn 1, and then turn 2, the G-Max Inteleon went for Max Phantasm on the Slowbro. And took it out. They didn't even bring Orbeetle that game, so by that point their Sun mode was gone. I mean, they still had Torkoal, but Torkoal is incredibly slow. They had nothing fast in the Sun left. The Venusaur was gone, and with their only Trick Room setter gone, they had no more. They had no more Trick Room. They didn't really have a way to gain momentum. Definitely no way to gain the speed advantage. They've been they've just been losing the same way every time, and it's been in exactly the way that we've predicted. It doesn't really seem like they're doing anything creative to try to get around these ways that teams have to break through them. Um, it, they even we saw that they actually brought the same exact team against both us and Ben and Vichy. Um, I we haven't seen we didn't get to see their week 1 and week 2 matches, so we don't know what kind of stuff they brought there. But um, if if their rigidity in their draft and their play style are any indication, it's possible they even brought the same team against them. We don't know, but that's pure speculation. But it's certainly possible. We would have really liked to see some transactions from them. We've been through 2 transaction periods now, and they haven't traded anything. We've even given some suggestions as to what they could have traded in our analyses so far. Um, we think that Amoongus would have been a great thing to trade away to get some more points to fill out your draft a little bit better, make it more balanced. But yeah, we've been through 2 transaction periods so far. They haven't traded anything, and we've seen in their play style, based on the matches we've watched and what we've heard about the other 2 matches, they're not they're really not trying anything different. So if that's any indication of how things are going to go for them in the future, it's going to be pretty easy for teams to look at their draft, identify what they're doing, and very easily counter it. We were definitely geniuses about the Lava Ridge Raiders, at least so far. We'd like to see them prove us wrong, but so far they've just been kind of doing the same thing, being very predictable, and they've suffered a lot for it.
In where we were idiots, um, unfortunate to say, but the potatoes. We had them as a top three team. Uh, I would have put money that they were gonna stay on top of the league. If you were to ask me, and right now they're sitting at 1-3, very surprising. Um, just something that we've noticed definitely in our analysis of their matches is in their losses in particular, their threats that we really thought were going to be big time threats and we're going to be big time contenders for MVP and being on the top of the kill death rate leaderboard. Stuff like Urshifu, stuff like Excadrill, even stuff like Gigalith that can sweep under Trick Room. They seem to be very lacking when they in their losses. So you see that these in the last week actually, Excadrill actually didn't even show up at all against the Patrats. Something that was, in our opinion, probably something that probably should have came against something like Arcanine.
Copper especially, they
Kaparaja.
didn't have anything to deal with Copper.
You know, we're not gonna you know do too much on any of that, but it's just interesting that something that's high is like an S tier pick, I believe, is
Yeah.
like that Excadrill is. You don't even end up bringing it to something that might have a potentially good matchup. Another thing too is we saw Curse the first week on Gigalith, I believe, and I thought that was genius, and I
Yeah, that was
think
great.
yeah, to set up and get a lower speed than I forget what I think it was the
Scavalier.
Escavalier, yes. And we haven't really seen any type of setup like that from the Excadrill at all. Excadrill has access to Swords Dance. There was a couple of times we played against them in week 2, I believe, and we were really scared of Swords Dance Excadrill against the Patrats, a team that is notorious for playing in very defensive games. Stuff like Swords Dance Excadrill will allow you to really plow through stuff that they're trying to just wall you with, and you can pick up a lot of KOs and not be forced to go to time. Something that they've proved that they're pretty comfortable at doing at this point. And then you have against the Talonflames too. If you decide to go with the Sword Stance Excadrill, you see the charm come out, and you immediately go, maybe we hold off on the Dynamax because there's charm pressure on the board. You you may be able to Sword Stance out and knock out the Lipard before anything happens, and now you're in a great position to Dynamax Sword Stance, and you just knocked out the thing that was bringing you down to -2 and bringing you down to neutral essentially. So it's weird that we haven't seen any of that when they're very willing to set stuff up. They have that willingness to bring stuff that can set up. Um, but we're just not seeing any of the threats come out and be like big time heavy hitters. The Urshifu 2 just doesn't seem to be able to get any like type of momentum. Something that we've seen from the Mats, they have the dark type Urshifu. They've been able to use it okay. We saw it against Team Pussy, I believe, right? That
Mm-hmm.
they were able to do all right with it in the game against Team Pussy. So it's just surprising that uh, the Potatoes, a team that we thought was going to be a perennial top 5 team in these power rankings, um, just is at 1-3 now. I do want to stipulate this too, with just saying that their first few games have been pretty against pretty tough opponents. You had the Talon Flames in week 1. They are 3-1 right now. You have us, the Amoongus Burnouts, in week 2 that we're 4-0, and the Patrats in week 4. They're 4-0 as well. So you're talking about one game was dropped out of the three games that they, you know, had against us combined. Granted, their win was against the Skarmories. They haven't really won a game, so those are games that you would think they should win because the Skarmories just haven't been able to get wins so far. But I would have felt that 2 out of those 3 games they would have taken. And then you're sitting at 3-1. There's no shame in losing to the Talon Flame. There's no shame to losing to us. There's no shame to losing to the Patrats. Um, Not necessarily there's shame to losing the Skarmories, but those are games that you're like, okay, cool, we lost, that's fine. We going 2-1, sitting 3-1. That's where we expected them to be. We did not expect them to be 1-3 at this point. Uh, can they make the playoffs? Absolutely. They have the roster to do it. They have the players to do it. The pilots, the coaches, um, that absolutely have the ability to do it. But man, 1-3 in the first 4 weeks. When we only have 10 weeks in the season, we're almost at the halfway mark here. We're about to cross it. Did not think that the Potatoes were going to be here. So sad to say, we were idiots on that one. We definitely thought the Potatoes were going to be one of the better teams. Not saying that they're not going to end up that way, but at this point, we thought definitely they'd show that they were a 3-1 at least. So
They have the potential. The tools are there.
yes, they are.
All right. Looking at the power rankings this week, 6 to 14. There's not too much that has changed this week. Power rankings are getting a little bit more solidified as we go on,
Mm-hmm.
but even so, I think there may still be. There almost certainly will be weeks after this where we see a little bit more movement than we saw this week.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get into that into more specifics about that as we talk about each of these teams. But coming in at number 14, once again, we have the Melee Mimikyus, staying down at the bottom there. They are one of two teams that are 0-4 right now. They did not play this week. They unfortunately had to forfeit due to a scheduling error. But they not going to say too much about them. We still have the same complaints as we've had about their team and their play so far. Their Dynamax is they're sort of mismanaging their Dynamax. Their draft is not the best. They have the Cobalion and the Durant definitely conflict with one another. They do have those first 3 picks are great with the Blastoise and Clefairy Durant, but yeah, we're not really seeing the transactions we want to see from them. We're not really seeing the right kind of play, the right kind of use of their Dynamax. Would have liked to see the Sableye do a little something. I'm looking forward to seeing what that can do, or even if they can pull something off with the Mantine. I think that would be super cool if they could do it. But same complaints as we've had about their team before, so they're staying down at 14.
At 13, we have the Lava Ridge Raiders. We kept them down basically here. not a lot to say about them at this point. They've lost in the same ways. Not saying that this isn't a good team. This is a good, composition here, but the coaches have refused to, adjust out of any type of strategy that they've done. When you've been beat by the same thing essentially 4 times in a row, you have to make an adjustment at some point. The fire types with the safety goggles is just rendering their team irrelevant. When you have your top two picks just not being able to do anything anymore, and you have only a couple of Pokemon outside of that, the Torkoal, the Mudsdale, the Slowbro, the Dragalge, that are really the only threats. It puts them in a tough position when you have to go against another team's S tiers because they've just completely rendered yours, useless. So for right now, we have the Lava Ridge Raiders at 13. We definitely like their picks, like the Mimikyus. We think that their picks may be a little bit stronger. I like a lot of the modes. They're just a couple of transactions away from being a top team, and they're all the way here at the bottom. But I do like a lot of what they have. So for right now, we have them at 13. They're just not making the adjustments necessary to be a top team.
Coming in at number 12, once again, SoCal Skarmories. They did take another loss this past week. They are sitting at 0-3. They're just they're a little bit underwhelming so far. I think they're having trouble either gaining or keeping momentum outside of using their Dynamax. I don't think we've seen them getting any of the combos off that we were identifying with their draft initially. I don't think we've seen any successful self activation weakness policy stuff. I don't think we've seen any decent crit stuff, any triage Giga Drain into Sap Sip, or I don't think we've seen I don't think we've seen them use any of that to any great success. So it kind of feels like this draft just it doesn't really do well outside of a Dynamax sweep. I mean, I think we saw that with our game. They had us kind of worried when they started tearing apart that one side with the Dynamax Crocodile. But once the Dynamax was over, and especially after they switched the Crocodile, it's the tide really turned, and they weren't really able to do much against the stuff that we had left. And the Lapras especially. I've been harping on this a little bit from time to time, but the Gmax Lapras as an S tier pick, I'm a little bit skeptical of, because we saw this week that Lapras just it was just really underwhelming. When you don't max it, you've got an S tier pick that's you have a B tier Pokemon that you essentially spent S tier points on, and the Lapras was very underwhelming this week. It freeze dried our Blastoise and didn't even do half. I don't know if we had any. I don't think we had any special bulk, maybe very little, but it was mostly just a max HP Blastoise, and the stab super effective freeze dry didn't even do half, and we were just able to sweep through with that Blastoise after they kind of lost that momentum when their Dynamax ended. So they're gonna have to think of something. But yeah, things aren't going too well for them so far. But they're at least a step above the Raiders and the Mimikyu, so they're here at number 12.
At number 11, basically not moving at all either. We have Team Pussy. Disappointing. They're 0-3. We sucks to have them there, but unfortunately, there's not really any other places that we can put them. We'd like to see them at least try, get some of the wins against some of these other teams here that they've gone against so far. They have had some tough games, but a team of their caliber, I definitely would have thought would have been able to pull out 2 of these. They're just having a tough time just getting momentum, or keeping it, I should say, because it seems like they're getting it pretty easily. It seems like in the last couple of games that we've seen, they get the Trick Room up when they want, they get the Dynamax up when they want, and it just seems like they don't have enough to finish these games out. And they're getting, the Milotic Living and, launching Hypnosis, and just it's becoming really tough for them to finish games, unfortunately. And while I do think that they can make a run back into the playoffs because they're two very good players, and this is a team that they've proven that they could, win games with. 0-3 is not a good start for them. So right now we have them at number 11.
Coming in at number 10, once again, we have the Potatoes. They took a loss against the New England Patriots this week. The game, it was winnable, but they made a couple crucial mistakes. I think not bringing the Excadrill really opened them up to a Kaparaja sweep, as well as just setting up the Trick Room for the Patriots. The Runerigus was not on the field, and the Kaparaja had just come out, and their Slowbro just went straight for a Trick Room and allowed the Kaparaja to gain a lot of momentum. They brought the Type Null, which we talked about that a little bit before. We didn't really expect Type Null to be very good. It got a Swords Dance off, and it still wasn't doing a whole lot of damage. It did about as much as we expected. And to think that they brought that instead of the Excadrill in this match was a pretty crucial mistake, we thought. But yeah, they are at least they do at least have one win. So they're a step above Team Pussy and the SoCal Skarmories. But yeah, they didn't have too great of a showing this week, leaving one of their S tiers on the bench. Dynamaxing the Exeggutor was a little bit odd, and then of course bringing the Type Null really just didn't allow them to do much. So Potatoes are staying down here at number 10.
At number 9, also staying in the same place, basically 14 through 9 stayed in the same place. We have the LA New Wave. They were on a bye this week, I believe, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So not a lot to say about them. They're 1-3. Just to kind of reiterate a little bit that we said last week, they have to win out, because they have some hard games coming up. Some games that are they're probably going to go 2-1, and that's going to really bring their record down. They're gonna, they don't want to have 2 or 3 losses on their records when they have to go into those games. So winning these next few games is going to be really crucial for them. They do have some good wins. I think they beat the Mats, right? Yeah, so the Mats are a good team. Ben and Vichy obviously made it to finals last year. So they've proven that they're good players. So a win against them is definitely a good thing, but would have definitely thought that they would be able to pull out a win against either the I believe they played the Russian Assets, and then they played the Patriots, correct? So one of those games I would have expected them to at least try and win one, because that would have put them into a nice spot, but unfortunately they weren't able to do it. So now they need to take hold of their future here and win these next few games. But for right now, we have them staying at the 9th slot.
Coming in at number 8, we have the Sadistic Seniors, who, despite dropping down one, actually had a pretty decent showing this week. They went up against Doesn't Click, which is always difficult, especially since the Seniors here don't have a great Cinderace matchup. But they put up a surprisingly good fight. They played a decently defensive game, which is not something you would normally expect from this kind of draft. They got Trick Room up twice. They managed to blow up the Cinderace with the Marowak. And they took the game to time and only got -1 on that differential. The game ended, I believe, 3-2. Is that right?
Yeah, 3-2.
Okay, so they did take a loss, so they are moving down, but they're only moving down one spot because they are 2-2. They do have a better record than all of the teams below them, and again they put up a good fight. They don't deserve to drop that low. And they do definitely have the tools uh, to climb back up. They definitely have a very good team. They've shown that it's not as one dimensional as it seems. They can do a lot of creative stuff with it. We're expecting good things from them, but for now they're sitting at number 8.
Coming at number 7, another team that we really like a lot. That actually surprised us quite a bit, and it's been a pleasant surprise. Is the Toronto Talonflames. They've really come in. They're sitting at 3-1 right now. They have a big win against Team Pussy that they're just coming off of. Uh, really, they're winning games that they should be winning. You have to prove that you're one of these top teams, which I believe they're trying to do right now. You have to win some of these games. It's something that we talk about. Um, Against these teams that are mid to low tier, because obviously there are going to be those teams no matter what in every league. If you're going to be one of the top teams, you have to win those games because we only have 10 weeks. And a couple of losses with a couple of differentials not going your way, maybe being closer than you like, going to time or anything like that, they can really hurt you in some of these close races to playoffs. We've seen differential hurt a lot teams a lot that just have the same record and the differential's just not there and they miss out on playoffs. So it can get really, really close. And the Talon Flames are doing what they need to do in order to prove that they're a playoff team. So hats off to them. They had a good matchup coming into this. Even though we think that Team Pussy is a really good team, even though they're not showing it right now, they have good players behind it. This team has been proven to win games. The Talon Flames knew that they had the matchup advantage just from the team, and they exploited it. And that's what you have to do. You have to execute those games. You have to go, we have the advantage. We're going to take that advantage. We're going to execute it properly. Then we've seen them do that a couple of times or 3 times already. And the loss to the seniors, too, the seniors are a good team. That's not a loss that, they should be ashamed about. They're definitely a good team. So the Talent Flames proving that they're going to be one of the top teams for sure. They have a great composition. They have great coaching. They picked up a redirector with the Tangela. Even though it didn't do too much in this game, it's a huge add-on to them for them because as we saw, they were able to lead it and threaten it and at least show like, hey, we can rage powder stuff away to let our threats go off. Even though it didn't do much, it's showing its usefulness already. Like I said, it's something that's probably going to come to every game now. Whereas the Doug Trio would probably have only came to a couple in team preview at the most. So great pickup by them. It only adds on to a very, very solid roster. They're going to be in and out of these top slots because I do wonder if they can maintain this momentum. Obviously, love to be proved wrong, but they definitely can be in the top slides. Coming in the future. So for right now, we have them at number 7.
And number 6, once again, we have the Mad Alcinas. They won their game this week, maintaining their spot at number 6. It wasn't a particularly important win. It was one of those matches that they should be winning. So it was against the Lava Ridge Raiders. So it's not something that's going to shoot them up too far in the ranks. It's definitely we didn't want to move them down at all because since they did win and they won competently. But this is one of those wins that's more going to be maintaining their spot rather than raising them up. But they did well. They built really the way that you're supposed to build against the Raiders, and it worked out very well. They took out the Sun mode and the Trick Room setter very early and proceeded to just win from there. So good win from them. It was important for maintaining their spots. Looking forward to seeing how they do moving forward.
All right. So that brings us into our top 5. And coming in at number 5, no, there's no movement here. The Russians stayed the same. They're at number 5. They got their win from the Melee Mimikyu this week. It was under a forfeit, but our feelings remain the same about the Russians. They're 3-1. They're looking to be a top team in the league. They beat a top team in our opinion and doesn't click. Which really, if anybody had any doubt on whether or not they were the real deal, a win against doesn't click is definitely something that can, show no, we are one of the top teams in the league. Definitely proving that. So, 3-1, great record. They have a tough game this week against the Sky Pillars, who are also a top 5 team. Where we'll see, but they're gonna have a tough game and really gonna show which team is here to stay. You know, this next victory, uh, you know, the Russians put themselves into a good spot at 3-1. So it's really going to show, hey, are we here to stay? I think they are. They got good wins. They got a good composition. They have, as we've mentioned before, 3 Pokemon that require very specific prep in the Gmax Cinderace, the Gothitelle, and the Gmax Butterfree. Something that they've been able to use really well just together. And their Trick Room mode is proving that it can be offensive even if they need to land a fissure or two. So, offense is offense. But for right now, we have the Russians at number 5.
Coming in at number 4, once again, we have the Sky Pillars. These two had a bye this week, so they're staying right where they are. Great team. We really like them. We really like how they've been playing so far. It's clear that they're prepping very well. They have a great team composition. Not much to say except I've liked what I've seen so far from them. They are 3-0, and I'm looking forward to seeing how well they do moving forward.
Coming at number 3, we have Doesn't Click, picking up a win against the Sadistic Seniors. Doesn't Click showed that they're here, man. They're not gonna lose 2 in a row. They had some unfortunate luck against the Russians. They went 1-1, but we still have them as a top team. They didn't move at all from this slot in the three slot, but they proved why they should be here, even though they may have been technically out of playoff contention. They prove that they are a top team, and this is why. When you go against one of these other teams who's trying to get into the top teams come down and they let them know what's up. And while the Sadistic Seniors did a great job, trying to put down pressure, Doesn't Click really showed just the a veteran strategy and coming in and out of Trick Room, understanding the long game, picking up KOs when they needed to. Having the Corsola in there when it needed to be to kind of preserve certain Pokemon that they had in the back to kind of set it up for that 3-2 victory. Just a really veteran play by them. They willed out this victory, proving that they should be in the 3 slot. We really like the well-roundedness of the team. I would have loved to see that normal gem explosion go off. I would like to see the damage on that. It's unfortunate. The crit was unfortunate, but they still were able to pull out the win. So this is a team that's going to be in the top slides consistently. Their draft is incredible. They seem to be on point this year. Even their loss, they prepped incredibly well. They played incredibly well in their one loss. So I don't expect them to have much more of that. We're going to see a lot more victories coming from them. So right now they're at number 3.
Coming in at number 2, we have the New England Patriots, one of the 2 teams currently at 4-0. Really great draft. We've been talking about this the whole time. We love the synergy on this draft. It's the Patriots and Doesn't Click as far as we're concerned for top 2 in synergy in this league. And they've been playing very, very well. I'm sensing sort of a theme in their play style. It feels a little bit like they're going offensive with their Dynamax in the early game, managing to take a lead with that, and then kind of shifting to more of a defensive mode in order to maintain that lead in the mid to late game. Which has been clearly working. They've won all their games so far. The only complaint we have is the same one we've had almost every week now. Uh, 3 out of their 4 games have gone to time. This is something that we predicted might happen in our initial analysis of their draft. It seemed like it might be a little bit too defensive. They might have trouble really closing out those games. The one game they did close out was against the Lava Ridge Raiders, which not too surprising. It's probably a little bit easier to close out that game than it is against the other opponents they've played so far. But yeah, against in those other 3 games, they all went to time. So it is starting to hurt their differential a little bit. But of course, if they keep winning like this, maybe differential doesn't really matter.
Nope.
It matters, I guess, for seeding in the top cut. But as far as qualifying for top cut, if they keep winning, who cares?
And they had a higher seed than us last year, and
Yeah.
it didn't help them. And so sometimes having the higher seed's not even the biggest deal. It's
Right,
just
yeah.
keep winning. So
So that's kind of our only complaint about their team. They did clearly go with a more defensive mode the mid to late game this week as well, especially with that grassy seed beware. So that seems to be kind of the theme for them. Not that they'll do that every week, but it's I believe they did kind of that same thing these first or these last 2 weeks here. So very very good team, very good draft, great players. They've clearly had a lot of success so far. They are one of the 2 4-0 teams here. So they're coming in at number 2. Well deserved. They absolutely deserve to be ranked among the best here so far.
yeah, they definitely have a great team, and they prove that they can get the wins no matter what. So props to them. Number 2, well deserved. And at number 1, what did we say? We said we're gonna be here. No, but in all seriousness, we gave ourselves the number 1 slot this week. We have the differential that's above everybody else's. We're 4-0. Now, looking back in hindsight, honestly, we haven't had the hardest schedule. We've taken care of business where we needed to take care of business. We played the Mimikyus, we've played the Raiders, we played the Skarmories, and we've played the Potatoes. I think out of all those teams, only they have a combined 1 win between all of them, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
When you put it like that.
Yeah. So
yeah.
we as much as we were joking, it's just one of those things where we're 4-0, we have the differential, but like we were talking about before, when you are one of the top teams, you have to show that you're going to beat these teams. You're going to have a good differential, because just like how, the Patriots, they play against teams, their differential is just it's not there. You have to be able to pull out those victories. So we do have a 5-0 and a 4-0 under our belt. The other 2 were actually pretty close. They came down to a 2-0 and another 2-0 against both the Potatoes and against the Skarmories.
But those clearly are the 2 better teams that we've played so far.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think the 4-0 and the 5-0 against the Raiders and the Mimikyus, I think despite the schedule we've had, those show that we are we're doing what we need to do, and then
those
some.
are taking care of business games.
Yeah.
That's what they are. We prep for them, obviously. One of the things that you'll see is on the VOD is the slow king that we had not only had nasty plot, it didn't have trick room at all, and we were faster than the Mudsdale. That's prep. So we're not taking these teams lightly. We're going into it knowing that even though they may not be, have the matchup against us, we have to take them seriously. and we definitely are. We take everybody in this league seriously. You never know what happens. This is one of the great things. We love doing this because we see some great matchups and some great upsets. We were holding our breath and going, "Is Doesn't Click gonna lose two in a row? Is this it? Oh, the seniors gonna prove that they're because it's totally in the realm of possibility and best of one when you have multi battle. A crit on one side can wipe out a whole side and completely destroy a game plan because you don't have that versatility to just switch mons between sides. It's a lot more static than I think a lot of people think in the beginning because they think, oh well, we have six mons. Like no, you have three each, and the Dynamax rotates. That it's a lot more difficult than people think. So you know, not to go too much on a tangent there, but we essentially we gave ourselves the number one slot this week. We have a long way to go. We're not at the halfway mark yet. Our goal is to reach the playoffs first and foremost, and we have some tough teams that are coming up here. Starting first and foremost with the guys that beat us in playoffs last year and knocked us out of playoffs. So, while we are here now, and while we were joking, and we're here. We did what we had to do. This is what we expected us to do. Our real test is going to come in these later weeks, and we definitely look forward to it. Even though the Skarmories and the Potatoes, they're good. They're good teams. Their records don't show it, and I know they don't. But they're good teams. We were absolutely terrified of Steve and Googe. We were. We came up with like 4 or 5 different strategies before we finally came down to Gigantamax Grimmsnarl, and it wasn't to meme on them or anything like that. Like it was legitimately like that is our best play to win. We need that. This is what we need to win. It wasn't.
I was pretty sure we were gonna get rolled by Gudra if we didn't
Yeah,
do that.
yeah, and they did say that they were AV Gudra physical
Yeah,
with
which is
Stat
really
Zipper.
which is what we expected. We
Yes,
we were
we're
we were prepping
terrified.
pretty hard for that set in particular. So because it made so much sense and they knew that.
Yeah. Okay, so that's enough of that. That is our power rankings right there. So I can go through them real quick if you want. So at 14 we have the Mimikyus. They didn't really move at all. 13 the Raiders. They didn't really move at all. Skarmories, you know, they really nobody's moving at all in these next couple. Team Pussy, all these teams as we're starting to see, they're starting to basically fill out a little bit more as we're filling into these next few weeks. The Potatoes here, they're gonna stay. The New Wave are gonna stay. We had the Sadistic Seniors and the Talon Flames swap places mainly because we did like the win that the Talon Flames had, as we were talking about before. The win over Team Pussy, they had the matchup against them. You have to execute those games, and Team Pussy is the type of team to steal those games away. They are absolutely the type of team that will out prep you and will come and steal those games away. So, because of that, because the Toronto Talent Flames were able to execute, we definitely like that. They're going to come in at the number 7 slot, while the seniors slip down to the 8 slot from after dropping a game against Doesn't Click, which are also a good team. The seniors are going to be good. They're going to be fine. The Mats, the Russians, the Sky Pillars, those three particularly, mainly because the Russians they had a forfeit. They're gonna stay. The Mats, they beat a team that they needed to beat. The Sky Pillars, they had a bye week. Doesn't Click. We kind of gave them a little bit of a mulligan last week. We kept them at the 3 slot, even though they had lost the game. We probably should have dropped them a lot lower. I know people were probably weirded out that a 1-1 team still managed to make it into the top 3. So because we kind of gave them a mulligan last week, their win against the seniors this week, we're keeping them there. And then the Patrats and us, the Burnouts, are 4-0. We gave it to us this week because we have the differential on them, and most of the Patrats wins against some of the better teams. They've been going to time. They haven't been able to prove that they can close these games out. Not necessarily something that's a problem for them right now. They're obviously 4-0, but something that we want to keep an eye on in the future. But more so that we have the better differential than them, and we've been able to close out those games. So
Haven't got a time yet.
haven't gone a time
Yeah.
yet. Do we have any close ones? Any close calls? This week was just pretty close, right? Against the Skarmories. It was like 2 minutes left.
maybe. I don't remember either. I think just to revisit doesn't click for a moment. For anybody who was maybe weirded out by our placement of them last week, um, it was mainly because they played so well, and their despite losing, their game was I think most of the time, if you replay that game the same way, they do end up winning. There was some luck that went into that loss. The special defense drop on the Cinderace, the fissure hitting. So even the sludge bomb poison on the Primarina was pretty significant in that game. So yeah, they've still, even though they lost, they still showed that they are one of the top teams. We know that based on their player resumes, they are fantastic players. They also have one of the best drafts in the league, so I think it makes sense to keep them where they are, either both last week and this week. I'd also like to mention that three of these teams down here near the bottom, the Potatoes, Team Pussy, and SoCal Skarmories, um, I I do definitely they're pretty stagnant right now because they all took losses this week. But I do fully expect them to start picking up some wins here and there, and to start moving up a little bit. This week was a little bit more stagnant than we expected, but there's definitely going to be some more movement coming up in future weeks.
Yeah, don't let Team Pussy start getting wins because we'll start having them in these top spots too because of their resume. I mean, when you win this league, you prove that you can play in this format. So we gave that, the Doesn't Click not only played well, but they, also have that going for them too, where they're just two great players that have won this league twice. So got to give them credit for that. All right. So next, that's week 4 in the books. Now we have week 5 looking ahead to that with our pick'ems. You want to take a shield then?
Yeah, looking at Shield Division, the first match we have is the Mad Alcinas versus us, the Amoonguss Burnouts.
In your objective opinion?
Yeah, we're completely objective
Yes.
on this. There's no bias here whatsoever. We're selecting ourselves to be the winners of this match. We I'm not gonna say too much about this one because I don't really want to reveal what we've been thinking about, but we like our matchup. There's definitely, obviously, some stuff that's going to give us trouble on their end. They have a pretty terrifying team, but we definitely like our matchup, and we've picked ourselves in the pick'ems every week so far, and we have yet to be wrong.
It's true.
So we're sticking with us on that one. SoCal Skarmories versus the New England Patrats. This one was a little bit more straightforward. Again, I do still want to reiterate that the Skarmories' record is not indicative of how good they are as players. But we do feel that with the way that both of these teams have drafted, with the way that both of them have been playing so far, we think it's pretty clear that the Patrats are the favorite here. They're most likely going to pull it out. If the Skarmories start to pull themselves together, they do absolutely have a shot at winning. I think there's if they can break through that synergy the Patrats have, if they can stop the Trick Room from going up, because the Patrats are gonna try to go for a Caparaja sweep against them. If they can if they can manage to do that, which I think they can, they're fully capable of it. They definitely have a shot at winning if they can. I think this may be one of the times where they really need to get one of those crucial combinations off, whether it's the Sap Sipper stuff or the Anger Point stuff or weakness policy stuff. If I were them, I would go for one of those here. So, moving on, Potatoes versus LA New Wave. This one is going to be a really interesting match. They are both these teams only have one win so far. Again, just like the Skarmories, their records are not indicative of how good they are as players. They, I think as far as team matchups go, I think the Potatoes actually have the advantage here. But New Wave's got the tools to deal with the stuff that the Potatoes want to throw down here. I'm not going to get too specific on that, but there's a few things they can do that'll allow them to deal with the threats that the Potatoes have against their team, and we feel reasonably confident that Hector and Allen are going to be able to make those tools work. And then we have a bye for the Lava Ridge Raiders, perhaps a good week for them to sort of regroup, maybe think about some transactions, maybe think about some different ways they can play a little bit better in the future. Who knows? So we will see the Raiders again in Week 6.
Okay, in Sword Division, we have Team Pussy versus the Sadistic Seniors. Um, Man, it's tough to say that Team Pussy is gonna lose four in a row, but here we are saying that Team Pussy is gonna lose four in a row. The seniors have proven that they are a good team. They have a good composition. They prove that they are very versatile in the things that they can bring. Um, that Marowak in Trick Room, the Marowak in general is proving to be one of their best Pokemon that they have. Uh, the Porygon Z has yet to make a full appearance. I think it's only gotten knocked out once. Hasn't picked up any KOs, right? Didn't pick up any KOs in the last one. So, yeah, it hasn't really made that much of an appearance, but that doesn't mean that it's not a threat. It just means it hasn't made an appearance yet. So, definitely going to be interesting to see how Team Pussy can come back and bounce back from an 0-3 start. This is going to be another one that's going to be an interesting game. But we're liking the seniors here. We think that they have a nice little matchup against Team Pussy. Then we have Doesn't Click versus the Melee Mimikyus. Just the Doesn't Click has a great matchup against the Mimikyus just in general. They have one of the best teams. This is going to be one of those games where, like we said, the Doesn't Click is going to have to take care of business. Shield or Sword Division is stacked right now. They're going to need all the wins that they can get. Would be a nice game for the Mimikyus to try and steal, definitely. If they can get off one of their combos, if they can get the Durant going and get the Cinderace off the field and are able to put down heavy pressure with the Dynamax Durant, that definitely can swing the game in their favor. But man, the Doesn't Click just not only has the tools, they have the experience in this league. They're obviously great coaches. They have great prep. This is going to be, if the Mimikyus are going to get a win, I don't think this is going to be the week that it's going to happen against Doesn't Click. So we're expecting Doesn't Click to get a win here. Maybe try and add some points to their differential. Next, we have the Russian Assets versus the Sky Pillars. This is going to be a really good game. You have two teams. Both of them are 3-1. Or no, the Sky Pillars are actually 3-0. They haven't dropped a game, huh?
Right.
Yeah, so...
Both in the top 5?
Both in the top 5, absolutely. The Sky Pillars proving that they can prep, proving that they have a great core. They have the Togekiss with the Rillaboom. What is it? Oh my god, I'm blanking on their team.
Chandelure Milotic?
Chandelure Milotic, yeah. And then the thing about their team too is the Golurk is putting in a lot of work right now. They have a lot of things that are in the back that aren't necessarily just that Togekiss that you got to watch out for, that are really putting down a lot of pressure. We've seen that Milotic come in several times, be able to be a Wink Edition and just put down a lot of pressure with either the hypnosis stuff or just getting competitive boosts. We're seeing a lot of great things from the Sky Pillars here. We are giving it to the Russians. We like their modes a little bit better. We think that they can work in and out of Trick Room pretty well, and they have a lot of things that they can kind of stop the Sky Pillars a little bit with, including that Butterfree, including the Caparaja. So we're giving it to the Russians here, but this is going to be a game that if you're only going to watch a couple of these games, I would definitely say you want to watch the Russians play, and I would say actually the Potatoes versus New Wave. That's going to be a really good game too.
Yeah.
It may look like they're only they have one win each, but these are really really high quality players here. Their backs are up against the wall, so they're going to be bringing everything they can. They're going to both need to get wins, and the Russian Assets and the Sky Pillars here, they're going to want to assert that one of them is a top team. The Sky Pillars came in, man, they came in trying to say that they were here for fun. They are not here for fun anymore. They are here to be a top team. So you have to respect them like a top team. The Russians are here. We've talked to Dina, we've talked to Taryn. They have a killer instinct mindset. They want to make it to playoffs. They want to make a deep run in the playoffs. They're not here to mess around. So they're not going to take the Sky Pillars for granted. The Sky Pillars are going to come in. They've shown that they can prep. So this is going to be a fantastic game between the two of them. But for right now, we have the Russians beating the Sky Pillars. And then the Toronto Talon Flames, they're 3-1. They're going to get a bye week. Well-deserved bye. Prepping for the next couple of weeks because the playoffs are going to be ridiculous to get into in the Sword division. All these guys are starting off real strong, so they're going to want all the time off they can get because this next push is going to be pretty tough for them. So I think that wraps us up for week 5.
Yep.
We will be back next week. We're not going to have our match on that one, so that kind of helps us out a little bit because I think we're going to probably try to push that to the weekend, right? We have a bye week next week, don't we?
Yes, we do. We'll see. It might be in there. We'll see.
Yeah. So we'll see if we're able to get it in. We'll see. But either way, we'll try and get that one out a little bit closer to Monday or Tuesday, hopefully, because we were trying to get Doesn't Click's game in. We definitely wanted to see them between the Sadistic Seniors. So, all right, guys, we will see you next week. I'm Anthony. That's Matt. We're the Mucus Burnouts, and we'll see you later.